Hi, welcome to Get Strong with Kaizzad. Today on TheHealthSite.com, we're going to be discussing the exercise known as the fly. Whenever you're moving at more than one joint, it's called as a compound movement. So watch, in a press, whether it's a barbell or a dumbbell, I'm moving not only at my shoulder joint but also at my elbow joint. Okay? In a fly, I move only at the shoulder joint. So when you move at more than one joint, it's called as a compound exercise. So all the presses that we did before were compound movements. Okay? And today is the fly. And the fly moves only at one joint. There is no movement at the elbow, there's movement only at the shoulder joint, and thus the fly is classified as an isolation exercise. We're going to be doing the fly with dumbbells on a bench, something that you all have seen, and we're also going to be doing an exercise called as the cable crossover. Though it's called differently, a cable crossover is basically a pectoral fly done with cables instead of dumbbells. Watch and observe that the way to lie down on a bench or to use a bench is basically the same. Okay, you activate the kinetic chain because you're going to exert force and you want to use the entire body. So it's a circular movement. It's a uni-joint movement, and whenever the movement is happening only at one joint, it'll always be a circular movement. Why is it circular? Because it's happening only at one joint. If it's going to be happening only at one joint, obviously the movement will be circular. To draw straight lines or to do a straight line movement, the movement needs to be done utilizing two joints. Watch, Kamlesh, press. So this is a press, movement happening at the shoulder and at the elbow. Kamlesh, stop, fly. Again happening only at the shoulder, the elbow is frozen. And that's a fly. So now you've understood the relationship, or rather the similarity between a fly and a press. The fly and the press both give you hypertrophy, that is growth of muscle, if adequate rest and adequate protein are given. But the press, apart from hypertrophy, also gives you functional strength, whereas the fly will give you hypertrophy but not functional strength. So you do the math and you choose what is more beneficial. So now we'll see the perfect execution of the fly. Kamlesh. So as you can see, activation of kinetic chain has happened. Okay, he's super tight all throughout. Now I want you all to observe the elbows. The elbows are slightly flexed. That means it's slightly bent. Okay. This is very important. It's not that the pectoral will not work if your elbows are completely and totally straight, but you will strain the elbow joint a lot, and hence the elbows need to be slightly flexed. But after you flex the elbows, there will be no further movement of the elbows. Watch, the dumbbells will be held in an oblique fashion like this, neither completely straight nor like this. It will be slightly in between in an oblique fashion, which is what we call as the neutral position. The neutral position is not this. This is actually the hammer position. This is where you will be. This is the most comfortable. Okay? Right. Again, the breathing is going to be the same. So, an inhalation of breath. Inhale. Okay, go. Again, pause and inhale, exhale. Again, exhale, inhale. Exhale, inhale. Many people end the movement here. This is not where the movement ends. The dumbbells are over the shoulder. 2 more reps. Again, one more pitfall. At the bottom, when the dumbbells go down, at the bottom of what we call as the eccentric, the negative phase of the movement, at the bottom, there's a tendency for the elbows to open out. Remember, the dumbbells are being pulled down with gravity. So as he goes to the full range of motion of the shoulder, there is a tendency for the elbow to open up. And hence the biceps need to be kept really, really tense. This joint is frozen, remember that. So come up again, and one more last one. It does not allow any flexion to happen here, even at the bottom. Again. And that's it. As you can see, there is complete activation of the kinetic chain. Again, feet, scapulae, 2 points of contact. Same for all movements of the chest that I've taught you till now. Now this is a fly. Now a press. Do a press. Watch only this much from the shoulder to the elbow. And you'll notice that in both the movements, the upper arm bone, the humerus, basically goes through the same movement. The pectoral lengthens for abduction and the pectoral shortens to bring the arms back to the center line. So you saw the dumbbell fly. Now let's walk over to the cable crossover machine. Come, Kamlesh. So we are at the cable crossover machine. We've already done the dumbbell flies. Okay, I've already explained to you all why flies as an isolation movement, as a uni joint movement, not really important to do. You all have understood that presses are better than flies. I've also told you all that there might be certain circumstances in which you all will have to do the fly, for instance, an elbow injury, an extensor injury, and let's assume that you can't really press. You can still maintain the musculature of the chest by doing flies. Now we come to the cable crossover, basically a cable machine which has a weight stack. It's also called as a selectorized machine. People like calling dumbbell fly as a separate exercise, cable crossovers as a separate exercise, but actually it is the same exercise called as the fly. It is a fly performed with dumbbells, or it is a fly performed with this machine called as a cable crossover. And you'll see that similarity when you see Kamlesh perform. Kamlesh, 5 reps on the cable crossover. Watch Kamlesh perform. With dumbbells, he was supine. With the cables, he's prone. Watch the similarities. The elbow flexion is exactly the same as it was in the dumbbells. Movement only at the shoulder joint. Joint action called is basically adduction, horizontal adduction that was happening in the bench, and it's happening now for the cable crossover. It's essentially the same movement. That's it, Kamlesh. Essentially the same movement, but with a difference. So here again, the circular pathway needs to be made by you. You need to place yourself bang in the center of the machine. The arms of this particular machine can actually be adjusted, and we've adjusted these arms to fit the pathway that Kamlesh is going to draw. Now, actually speaking, the cables could be slightly lower, and the person could actually step in front and literally do a movement like this. Okay? I prefer doing the movement bent over with the cables coming from the top because it provides you with a lot more stability. Grab the handles. Bent over position. From this point on, Kamlesh will be performing a fly. And a fly is performed by, first and foremost, keeping the elbows slightly flexed. The elbows are pointed outwards, and then the movement is purely on the shoulder joint. There is absolutely no movement at the elbow joint. Kamlesh, go. 3 reps. Again. That's it. Leave it. I hope you noticed that up until now, in my previous episodes, I've covered the flat bench press, the dumbbell bench press, the dumbbell incline, the dumbbell decline, the dumbbell fly, and the cable crossover. I hope you've noticed that the breathing pattern remains the same. So that takes care of the cable crossover, or what I would like to call as a fly done on the cable crossover machine. Now we move on to the next variation. Yes, 3 variations of the same exercise. Don't you all love it? Everybody loves variations. But let me tell you one thing, I'm showing you all the 3 variations. You all need to do only 1. Out of the 3, drop the dumbbell fly for sure. Between the cable crossover and the pec deck, it's a toss-up. Whichever is available, whichever you prefer. Let me show you the pec deck. So we are at the pec deck machine. Okay, essentially doing the fly, but on a machine. You all have already seen the dumbbell fly. Let's see Kamlesh do 5 reps on the pec deck fly. Notice all the similarities, the flexion at the elbow, the breathing, the movement only at the shoulder joint. Essentially, he's doing the fly. So what's different? He did the same thing with dumbbells, and now he's doing it with the pec deck. Correct? Okay, Kamlesh. When he was doing the dumbbell fly, Kamlesh was supine, lying on the bench, correct? Parallel to the floor. Right now, he's perpendicular to the floor. He's upright. So let's see if I take a dumbbell and do a fly while I'm in the upright position. This is my line of movement. How do I know my line of resistance? If I leave the source of resistance, I should see where it goes. So if I'm standing like this with a dumbbell, and if I leave the dumbbell, where will it go? Straight down, perpendicular to the floor. Hence, my line of movement is not matching the line of resistance, which is the line of gravity, which is perpendicular to the floor. But In this case, in the peg deck, if Kamlesh were to hold the handles, right? And now let's assume that Kamlesh were to leave the handle. Leave it, Kamlesh? Yeah, leave it. No problem, leave it. Where would it go? See this? The handle moves exactly, or rather traces its path back to where it came from, unlike the dumbbell. So what is the secret behind this machine? It's very simple. Basically, Kamlesh holds the handles. Now the handles are not the source of resistance. So where is the source of resistance? Kamlesh is holding handles, which is a part of what we call as a swing arm of the machine. So this is the swing arm. The swing arm is attached to a cam, a circular disc. A cable attaches itself to the cam, then goes through pulleys and attaches itself to what we call as a weight stack. The actual weight that is being lifted. Okay, that weight stack moves on guide rods. So when Kamlesh traces a circular pathway, the isolation movement called as the fly, the cable basically lifts a weight that is always moving in the line of gravity, right? So Kamlesh's pathway is circular, but he's lifting a weight that is always moving in the line of gravity. Hence, Kamlesh's curvilinear pathway, line of movement, matches the line of gravity because of this machine, because of the arrangement of the swing arm attached to the cam, cable attached to the cam, cable goes through pulleys and attaches itself to a weight stack that always moves perpendicular to the floor. Kamlesh has actually gone slightly higher than the seat and he's hovering. Why would he do that? Why wouldn't he sit on the seat? If you have seen my earlier videos, obviously it is because he wants to activate the kinetic chain, wants to get the power from the ground, right, from his legs, wants to involve his entire body into power generation from his pectorals and delts, right? So whenever you see a seat, don't sit on it. In fact, in my academy, I've actually removed the seats off. Grab the handles. Now, the other thing to remember is, where do you sit? Higher, lower? So obviously, once you grab the handle, the shoulder should be at the same level as the wrist, exactly the same level. Then you fill in by actually getting the elbows up, right? So the shoulder, elbow and the wrist will all be in one straight plane. Kamlesh, just reduce the scapular, elevation a bit, that's right. There is a tendency to shrug up, don't do that, keep your shoulders down, right? Again, I repeat, shoulder, elbow and wrist all in one plane, right? After that, it's just like doing a dumbbell fly. But it's better because from point A till here in the dumbbells, you don't get any resistance, right? But in the peg deck, since the resistance is moving in the line of gravity, that is the weight stack, you will get resistance all the way from the very beginning, right? So from point A all the way till the end of the eccentric and all the way back in the concentric, right? So again, I'm going to make you observe Kamlesh doing 5 reps on the peg deck fly. Doesn't matter what exercise, his breathing pattern is going to remain the same. Inhalation, exhalation, in between reps, after culmination of the rep, which is what we call as a punctuation. 1 rep done individually, 1 at a time. Watch. Pause, exchange air. Pause, exchange air. Pause, exchange air. Okay, that's it. The same fly done on the peg deck machine offers you continuous tension. I've shown you 3 variations of the same exercise called as a fly. One with free weights, dumbbells on the bench, one on the cable crossover, and one on the peg deck, right? You don't need to do all 3. Choose one, and preferably either choose the cables or the peg deck and not the dumbbells. If you've liked the knowledge that I've dispensed in these videos, then definitely do subscribe to TheHealthSite.com.